The old maxim that justice delayed is justice denied has never been more true than in the case of the Premier League and Manchester City. Long before the Premier League announced, at the beginning of this month, that it was charging City with over 100 breaches of its financial fair play rules, mainstream and social media have been awash with stories of Manchester City's flouting of the FFP rules. Now that charges have been announced, the clamour for action is only going to get louder. But, unfortunately, it appears that the Premier League is years away from concluding this disgraceful matter. Now, every match that City plays in is trailed with an increasing number of online comments, referring to them as cheats, and questioning the ability or willingness of the Premier League to bring appropriate sanctions in a timely manner. These accusations will only get louder as the season progresses, and the title race, which is currently being led by City, for the first time this season, heats up. The longer the clamour for City to be kicked out of the Premier League goes on for, the louder and more widespread it becomes, and the greater the damage to the sport and the Premier League's integrity. It is therefore in the best interest of the Premier League to get ahead of this clamour by bringing swift justice to Man City. The remainder of this season will now be cast under the shadow of City's cheating, dating back almost 2 decades. As the cheating saga rumbles on, it is becoming abundantly clear that the Premier League has placed itself in a quandary of its own making. The rules that govern sports are only as effective as their timely application. The length of time that it is taking to penalise City for serious and extensive breaches of the FFP rules is a damning indictment of both the prosecutor and the defendant. The extent of the damage that is being done to the Premier League's reputation can be gauged by the growing tide of criticism on social media across the globe. The Premier League need to take swift action to stem this tide, before the damage runs too deep. A process that is taking almost 2 decades, while City is able to continue playing, under serious charges that could result in expulsion, is deeply flawed. The evidence against City is irrefutable and the sanctions should have been fixed and immediate. However, the Premier League have created a system where the sanctions are discretionary, and the team can continue playing while the charges are contested over decades. To put this in context, it is like an athlete that has failed a drug test, being allowed to continue competing, while a trial date is set for some time in the distant future. Or, like a team charged with fielding ineligible players, being able to continue in the tournament, while the eligibility of the players is contested in court. In any jurisdiction, not only does the punishment have to fit the crime, but the administration of justice also has to fit the crime. Stripping cheats of titles and awarding them retrospectively to the true winners cannot adequately compensate them and their supporters, who have been denied their sense of achievement and moment of glory. As it stands already, the charges cover a 10-year period from 2009 to 2018 and, critically, City have refused to cooperate with the investigation since it was launched in 2018. So, in effect, justice has been delayed for over 15 years and the delay is set to continue for even longer. The fact that the investigation has taken so long, and there is speculation over what the sanctions could be, is an indictment of the process. Justice should have been swift and decisive. The Premier League is now facing the unsavoury prospect of stripping City of all the titles won during the 10-year period under investigation. Well, what about the titles won during the 5-year period between the investigation and the charges been brought, and the yet-to-be-determined number of years before the conclusion of the arbitration process? City were cheating openly from the outset, and it is a matter of legitimate public concern that the investigation has taken so long. From the time of the Abu Dhabi takeover, the leading City sponsors were all owned by Abu Dhabi. This was unprecedented and a glaring red flag. City did not have the profile to fit or attract the multi-million sponsorship and commercial revenue that the Abu Dhabi-related companies were ploughing into the club. The growing criticism on social media is eating away at the league's integrity, and the longer the saga rumbles on for, the greater the damage to the reputation of the league. The Premier League are taking too long to sanction City. They need to act swiftly to stem the tide of criticism that is threatening to wash away the league's integrity. Asking the other teams to continue to compete against City is tantamount to gaslighting City's transgressions. It should not be a surprise that a rule-breaking City is running away with all the plaudits. That is the reason for, and evidence of cheating. City's success is too good to be true, and the other teams are playing against a stacked deck.